All right, what up, everybody? It's your boy, the Foodie Filmmaker, back at you with episode number 7. Oh, yeah. Welcome back once again to the Foodie Filmmaker Podcast. As you know, your host, Louis, is right here ready to give it to you. Oh, yeah. So this episode is going to be primarily for restaurant owners. If you're not a restaurant owner, don't worry, you can still watch the episode and enjoy it just as much. But if you're a restaurant owner, you're definitely going to take a lot of value out of this one, because in this episode, I'm going to be discussing if restaurant owners can actually also be social media managers. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it, and let's go ahead and crack the question: if yes or no, should they be social media managers? So what's it going to be? Can restaurant owners actually be social media managers? The answer, at least to me, is yes. And as a matter of fact, I believe most restaurant owners currently right now should be doing their own social media marketing, even if you already have years in operation. But primarily, if you're just starting off, if you just opened up your restaurant, I believe that you should be the one doing your own social media marketing. And in this episode, I'm going to get into not only why I think that should be the case, but also I'm going to go into a few tips as to how you can go about it if you have absolutely no experience whatsoever managing a social media account. Now, yes, let me be clear. Let me be clear right now. I don't own a restaurant, so I cannot talk to you from that perspective as far as like what it's like to own a restaurant, how to operate it and everything. But I could talk to you about actually working behind the scenes, because I did work in restaurants before. I worked in the back, in the kitchen. I used to make coffee. I used to make food. So I have some experience with that. And also, as I explained in my first episode, in episode number 1, I believe I did touch on it. I might not have touched on it like in depth, because it was just like one of the things that I was talking about when I was kind of going into my history and kind of letting you guys know a little bit about myself. But I did talk about how my first ever account, I wasn't getting paid for at all, not a single penny. But not only that, but I had zero experience managing an account. So this was before even the job I got as a jewelry social media manager, when I had to manage accounts for the jewelry company I was working for. So I had absolutely no experience. Sure, I had some experience with content creation and stuff like that, but never had I actually taken on the account of an actual restaurant. So the account that I took on was actually a gelato shop that I was working for at the time. I was the manager of that shop. That shop currently does not exist anymore, but it was called Swedish Scoops. Now, if you go to that location, I actually work for that place as well, but I'm doing their social media. The place is called Boba Chacha. It's a boba shop, and you can find it in Pasadena, in Old Town Pasadena. But yeah, so at the time I was the manager of that place, of that gelato shop, and I worked there for a while until eventually, I felt like it was time to move on to do other things. And so I pretty much just moved on and I stopped working for the gelato shop because I felt like I could do more. And I was offered a job at the jewelry district in downtown LA, where I could be a social media manager for the jewelry company and manage their social medias, accounts, and manage their website and all that stuff. So I decided to take the opportunity and leap onto that. And then a couple months later, I came back to check on, because the owners of that gelato shop were very good friends of mine. So I always went back there and I wanted to see how things were going. And at the time when I was working there, they actually hired a social media agency. So I had no idea like how the agency worked, but I did get to see how they did the photo shoots and everything, and I got to see their posts. But I didn't think much of it because I wasn't really in the business of doing that. So I pretty much just saw it as something like, oh, they're coming in, they're taking pictures and videos and stuff. Well, actually, they didn't really take any videos. They took mostly pictures, and they were professional pictures with a DSLR, so they looked pretty good on the feed. But it was just pretty much just photos, and so I saw how they operated with that. But it never crossed my mind to even ask to take over the social media account, because, like I said, I had never done such a thing. I didn't even know it was something that you could offer as a service. So that was something that that happened with my first job. But yeah, like I said, so I went months later. I went to check into the place, and I saw that they were no longer working with that social media agency. And so I already had some experience working with the jewelry company, but I still wasn't great. I only had like 2 3 months working there. And yeah, and then I went there, and then I just asked them. I'm like, hey, would you guys like me to take over your social media accounts? Because the place was a little slow, and I kind of wanted to do something to help out, right? So I said I'll take over the social media account, and that's pretty much how I started. They said, yeah, sure, why not? Because we don't have anybody, and they didn't really have the means to afford anybody at the time. So they said, sure, why not? We were all friends. They trusted me with the account. So from that point on, I started to create the content for the ice cream shop and for the gelato shop. And like I said, I had no experience whatsoever managing an account as far as like restaurants went. I had already been working on with the jewelry one, but I hadn't really taken over the accounts just yet because we were still kind of getting everything ready because they had everything like all over the place. That jewelry company was just a mess when I got there because they didn't have any branding, they didn't have any logos, they didn't have any like slogans, nothing, no website, no nothing. They were pretty much just starting off from scratch. So we were pretty much getting all those things ready before we could actually start the social media account and start creating content to post on there. In this episode, I want to talk about the things that really helped me to get that account up and running, because once I started to work with it, I actually started to get pretty good feedback from it. I started to get pretty good engagement from it. And I want to share with you guys the things that I was doing when I had absolutely no experience to get the account to a decent place where people were engaging. People were coming from Instagram to the store to other claim deals and buy stuff that they saw on the page. I want to teach you guys exactly what you can do, and I believe that everything I'm gonna share with you guys in this episode can apply to any restaurant owner that's out there that has absolutely no experience whatsoever creating content and managing a social media account. So you can apply these tips. Not that applying all of this will replace an actual social media manager, or that you'll get good to the degree that you'll match the quality of having an actual social media manager, because I'm assuming that right now, if you're a restaurant owner, that's your specialty. So your specialty is, managing the actual restaurant. So everything from creating the food menu. Perhaps you're a chef, so you're very good at making the actual product itself, and you're good on the business side of things. So you're good with the operations and operating the restaurant itself. And this whole social media thing is probably not your strength. So that's probably why you would think that it's a good idea to delegate it. But at the same time, here's the reason why I don't think it's a good idea to hire someone or delegate it when you're first starting off, is because, first of all, hiring a good social media manager is expensive. Like an actual good one. I'm not talking about hiring one that's okay, or like things like that, because if you were to hire someone who's okay, you're going to get okay results or probably no results whatsoever, because anyone who's not charging you, like if you hear, I'm not going to name any, I'm not going to say any prices here, but if you listen to, a social media manager comes to your store and they offer you some social media services, social media management, and you listen to the price and the price is actually very low, and you think that you're getting a deal here, you're actually not. Because the reason why a social media manager will charge very low is perhaps because, number one, they're just starting off. So when you're starting off, you're just trying to pretty much get some work from someone, right? So you're basically willing to do whatever it takes. So you're basically willing to compromise on the price just so that you can get a client. So because they're just starting off, chances are they don't have that much experience. So they'll probably just be using your account as a way to experiment and gain experience basically with your account, so that later on they can go and eventually charge more down the line. But the thing is, they probably don't have that much experience, so most likely whatever it is that they do with your account, it's not going to be anything crazy, anything that can actually produce results, because basically they're just starting off, they have a lot to learn. Or second of all, they know that the quality of work that they do is not really good, and because it's not that good, it pretty much it's low effort type of work. So if it's low effort type of work, then yes, you can charge a little bit because there's not that much effort going into it. They've probably figured out a very streamlined way of creating content and basically managing your whole account to the point where it requires so little of them to do. And so you can kind of tell. I've seen this personally in some accounts where you can tell like the type of work that goes into it is very mediocre, very lazy. You can tell that there's just very poor effort going that went into whoever's managing the account, because you can tell in the quality of the photos, the quality of the videos, just the way that the quality of the captions and everything along those lines. You can tell that there's just no professional look to it. And it's important that your social media accounts have that professional look where it looks appealing. It looks not only does it look appealing to the customer, where the customer feels enticed to go and try the food, but it also looks professional to the point where a customer can find some trust in the page itself enough to go and invest their hard-earned money into the place. Because if it looks sloppy, if it looks like everything's out of place, the food doesn't look appetizing and stuff like that, then the customer looks at it and they're not really invested. They'll correlate the quality of the work on your social media accounts to the quality of your actual restaurant. So if the quality of your social media accounts is poor, then they'll basically assume that the quality of your actual product when they go there is also going to be poor. It's going to be sloppy. They're going to think that you're just cutting corners not only on social media, but you're cutting corners also on your actual place. So you're probably doing everything yourself there as the owner. You're not hiring the right employees, or you're probably not giving your employees the necessary training that they need in order to make the product the way that it's supposed to be made. So then you got employees serving food that it's not consistent. So maybe one employee that is trained or that's just a natural good chef will go out, make the food, it tastes good, but then you have this other employee that wasn't necessarily properly trained, and they have no experience, they have no natural talent with that. Well, then they're just going to be they're just going to be making sloppy food. And so that's not good either. But and this may not be true. Maybe your actual place is actually very good. It's professional. You're serving really good food. All your entire staff is properly trained, and there is a good experience when the customer actually goes there. But the customers will never know, at least the people that find you through social media, they won't know that because their first impression of them is your social media profile. And so if they see it and they see that it's all over the place and it doesn't look good, then that's already one less reason for them to go. And this is just a numbers game. Obviously, there'll be people who might still want to go, people who don't necessarily care about the content on social media. They might still go anyway. But I'm just saying that there's going to be the majority of the people who do care, they're not going to end up going, and that's money that you're already losing just because you decided to invest your money in someone who doesn't have the necessary experience. So that's the main reason why I believe that if you don't have the necessary budget to hire a good social media manager, you should just do it yourself. Do it yourself until you have the necessary money, you have the actual budget to hire a high-end social media agency that can do the work properly for you, that actually has some experience already doing social media management, and that has a good record to prove that they've actually managed other accounts. They have a good repertoire of clients, and they can show you like how they've helped other clients, and they can show you the quality of work that you can expect from them, as opposed to just hiring someone who's just starting off, someone who's charging cheap just because their work is all right, or they're just starting off so they have no experience, or perhaps they're just not confident enough in their work yet to be charging the amount that they're supposed to be charging. And this happens sometimes too, where you'll find that there's social media managers out there who have excellent, really good quality work, but they're just charging a little bit of money. They're just charging a little bit of money because they don't have the confidence to go out there and claim more money. So there is those instances where that happens, but trust me, you don't want to hire those people either, because they do the work and they see the quality that they're producing, they see the results that they're producing, but deep down they don't feel completely happy working for you or having you as a client, because they feel like they deserve more, but they're just afraid to ask you for more. So they'll be delivering the work, and so eventually this will lead to them just all of a sudden, for no reason, they'll just quit on you, they'll just leave. If another client comes through and sees their work and just offers them more money, they'll just leave, and you'll never know what happened. You might think that it's your fault, but no, actually, they just wanted more money, but they were afraid to ask. And then when another client came, basically made it easy for them to just accept more money, then they're just going to go with that client and leave you behind. And you don't want that either, because now you're out of a social media manager. So those are the reasons why I think that if you cannot afford one, you should just do it yourself. But everything is going to be all right, because I'm going to be sharing with you 4 very valuable tips that you can take with you right now as a restaurant owner. You can apply it once you start doing your social media, once you start managing your own social media. And believe me, other social media managers might be watching this video and they're going to be like, no, don't share that. Because if you implement these 4 things, I can assure you that there will be no need for you to hire a cheap social media manager. You might want to hire a high-end one, because the higher-end one can actually do more things for you. And the most valuable thing is that obviously you'll have your time back if you hire someone of the high end, because all these things I'm about to share with you, they can do it, and they can do it in a way that's professional, that's good, that's solid, and you can trust them to do it really well. Whereas if you were to hire a cheaper one, you're going to be having doubts and trust issues, once the delivery time comes and you're expecting them to deliver. So apply these 4 things that I'm about to share with you, and I can assure you that your social media accounts are going to be looking real cool, real solid, at least for the time being that you have to do it yourself. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so tip number 1 that I want to share with you guys, and this is one that's a little bit controversial because some people have the wrong idea about this, but I believe, and something I did when I first started managing that account of Swedish Scoops, is that I started to look at the competition. So I started to look at what other gelato shops were doing. How are they managing their social media accounts? So what kind of content are they posting, basically? Because when you take a look at that, you can kind of see what other people are already doing. And you can see also, based on the engagement that those posts get, you can see already what that audience likes, because basically, like, whatever audience your competitors have, it's basically going to be somewhere close to the audience that you're going to have yourself. So you might as well take inspiration from content that your audience already likes and basically bring it to you. So basically, you want to take a look at what the competitors are doing. So as far as like the way they take their pictures and their videos, you want to see how they do it, and then you want to try to replicate some of those posts. Obviously, you don't want to copy them directly, but you do want to take some inspiration and see how they took shots. See how they took a certain picture, and try to take that picture and try to take the same exact picture, but probably in a different setting, obviously with your own product. And do that at first, So if there's videos as well that you see on there that are really cool and that people engage with it, then try to replicate a similar video as well. And do this at first. At first, just try to see what content you see that got a lot of engagement for your competitors, and try to do the same thing for yours. And then after, what I want you to do is to not only take the content that you see and replicate it, but also start to give it some thought. Start to think more like analyzing the content. So think about why not only did their audience engage with that content, but also think about why the place itself decided to create the content that they did. So why did they choose this specific shot? Why did they choose that background? Why did they choose if it's gelato in this case, why did they choose that flavor instead of this other flavor? Like why did they do certain things? Why is it in a cone? Why isn't it in a cup instead? What would happen if I put it in a cup? So, you can start thinking about things that way, and basically you can start pinging ideas and start basically creating content around there, because at first maybe you have no idea what kind of content you should be creating. You don't know exactly how to place your products, how to put them in a position where they look good. So it's good to look at the competitors' pages and see what are they doing in their accounts that's helping them go to the next level. And basically you want to take inspiration, you want to see what they're doing and basically replicate it in your own style. Try to see how you can make it just a little different so that it fits your brand and it fits your style, your product. It makes your product stand out and stuff like that. And so that's one really good way to start getting content off the ground. If you have like no idea, you're in a blank space because you're not a content creator, right? So you're not really, that's not really your forte right there, if you will. So getting inspiration, getting some real life examples of what people are actually doing out there is a good way to start and get the imagination, get the creativity going. And that way you can actually start posting some content on your page, whereas before maybe you were stuck, maybe you were dwelling because you didn't have any idea whatsoever of what to post, but now you have something. So apply that and I can assure you that you're going to start creating content real quick, and it's going to start looking good right off the bat. All right, so the second tip I want to share with you is to simplify your posting strategy. Like a good speaker out there that I know called Gary Vee says, just post your content. So you may be thinking right now, because you're operating your restaurant, right? And maybe in your restaurant you have everything's flawless, right? Everything's perfect. You got the recipes, you got everything that's measured properly, right? And so you have a proper look to everything. So you're very precise in the things that you do. But what you don't realize is that all that precision, all that everything that you do now that's good, that's precise, that's on point, and that that's perfected, all of that came from experience. All of that came from you spending years doing what you're doing. It's not something that, okay, you started off right off the bat, you started being precise and perfect with everything that you were doing. At first, say you take like a sandwich or something, maybe you had a vision of how to make a sandwich, right? You had an idea of like, okay, how about if I make a sandwich that's like this, right? And when you went to go make that sandwich, it's not like you were precise with everything. You were basically just kind of winging it. You were trying to see, okay, maybe if I throw this much of sauce in there, I throw this much, well, whatever, maybe it's a chicken sandwich. So you threw in this much chicken, this much thing. Maybe you threw in a vegetable in there, a tomato, and then you realize maybe the tomato doesn't fit in there. You remove it and stuff like that, right? So there was a lot of winging. There wasn't really a precise perfect way to make that sandwich at first. It came after you tested a lot of things that, okay, now you know exactly what you know exactly the kind of sandwich you want to make, and you know exactly what kind of things that sandwich needs to have in order for it to be perfect, at least in your eyes. So we have that, but right now when it comes to content, you don't have that, because you haven't created enough content to get to that point where your content needs to look that way, and that you can even create it that way, because you just don't have the necessary experience to create content in that way where it's precise and perfect. So you're gonna have to simplify it. And the thing is what I mean by simplifying here is that when you get more advanced with your content creation, there's different ways to create content and there's different purposes. So there's the main type of content that you'll see out there, which is entertainment. So most content is created for sole entertainment. Some content is created for educational purposes. Some content is made, it's made with a call to action. So the piece of content is made to drive you to go and do something. Maybe it's a sales oriented type of content. So it's the purpose of the content is to get you to buy something. And so there's many types of content that can be created out there. And so this can create a bit of confusion because now you're like, okay, like what kind of content? I have to create content that does this, I have to create content that does that and that and that and that. And so the thing is that at first you just want to create content that basically lets people know that you exist, because at first you're just starting off. You're just starting off your account. And the most important thing that you want to do right now is capture attention. If you're not capturing attention, if you don't have an audience, if you don't have people watching your stuff, if you don't have people engaging with your posts, then basically it doesn't really matter what you're posting, because not not a lot of people are seeing it. So right now, in the beginning, you actually have the freedom and the flexibility to post whatever you want, because there isn't an audience that's picky enough, and you don't have to calibrate to your audience where you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't post that. If I post that, maybe I lose like 20 followers or something, or maybe if I post something like this, that it won't get as many likes or it won't get as many comments, right? At first, you don't have any of that because you don't have an audience. So at first, you just want to focus on capturing attention. And the only way to really do that is just to post consistently. So just post whatever comes to mind. Like I said, take inspiration from your competitors, see what kind of content they're creating, and you'll start to see that when you start to see examples of your competitors, you'll start to see that, okay, that piece of content, like I said, always analyze it, right? Look at the piece of content and see what's the purpose of that content. So maybe they positioned it this way and that way to make it more appetizing, because they want you to focus primarily on that specific flavor, because maybe that flavor is the hot seller. So they want to encourage more people to come through and notice this specific flavor. Maybe they put in a cone because they want to promote the cones. Maybe the not enough people are actually buying the cones, but they're buying the flavor of the gelato. So what do? You put the most popular gelato flavor and you put it on top of a cone. Now you'll capture the attention of your audience through that flavor, because everybody already loves that flavor, and then they see the cone and they're like, oh, maybe I never thought about actually having that, in a cone. I never thought of having the scoop in the cone. So, next time that I go and buy, I'm going to try it with the cone and something like that. Or maybe it's an actual sales driven piece of content where it's like, okay, you know what, you buy this, you buy a scoop of this flavor because and it's very easy for people to buy it because it's already popular. So maybe you can make a sales-driven piece of content where it's like, oh, you buy this scoop of gelato and you get a free cone or something, or your cone is half off or something like that. And so that way you can push more cones and stuff like that. We're just looking and analyzing your competitors' content. You can start to see, okay, like they're creating this specific content. They're creating the content that they're creating for that and for that and for that. And so you start to kind of get experience with it, start to see what's the purpose of every piece of content that's going out there. And eventually, like I said, you'll start to develop a strategy. But at first, keep it simple. If you have your own idea too, like I said, obviously looking at the competitors is something that can get you, like I said, when you're in a blank, when you have absolutely no idea what to post, then you can go ahead and do that, and then you'll get some inspiration to go and post something. But if you have your own ideas as well, you have some sort of a theory or idea, right, that you want to try out, you should post that as well, because who knows, maybe that type of content is what people want to see. They want to see something different, and that's the magic of actually you coming up with content. But like I said, if you're a restaurant owner, if you're not a natural content creator, or you don't have any experience creating content, it's not something that's gonna come easy for you to do that. Like, it's not like you're gonna be thinking about content all the 24/7. So that's why I say that you should take advantage of what others are already doing in order to capitalize on that and use that to your advantage. But if you have ideas, no matter how funny or silly they may sound, you should always post it. Like I said with Gary Vee, always post your content, no matter what. there's always going to be somebody out there who will find your piece of content to be cool. And that's really the magic of social media too, because you can't always predict if a piece of content is going to do really well or really bad until you actually post it. Because of that, you always want to be posting everything. So whether you take inspiration from a competitor, or or you just come up with this creativity, or possibly you can take inspiration from other creators too. It doesn't necessarily have to be your competitors. Once you pretty much exhaust that, you can go outside of that and just look at other similar content creation, man, because there's like your little niche, right? So if you're, in this case, gelato, obviously there's all the gelato shops, but then you can kind of go a little bit more broader, so you can go outside of that. So you can maybe start looking at ice cream, you can start looking at frozen yogurt, you can start looking at other desserts that are kind of similar. They're not exactly the same, and I wouldn't say they're necessarily your competitors, but you can also take inspiration from them and see like what they're doing, and also apply that. And so there's just a huge, vast amount of inspiration out there. If you're ever stuck and don't know what to post, you can always go and look at all those other accounts and places where you can see amazing content being posted every single day. And so you want to be someone who's posting every single day. So simplify it. Don't make it too rigid to the point where, today I got to post this, tomorrow I got to post that, the next day I got to post this and that and that. Just free flow, let yourself kind of basically get into the habit of just posting and creating content. And then later, if you want to do that, you can obviously do that and strategize it. And I'll be like, okay, on Monday, I'm going to post an entertainment driven piece of content. On Tuesday, it's going to be more of a sales driven. On Wednesday, it's going to be educational. I'm going to let people know about, something about my restaurant that can possibly educate my viewers and stuff. The fourth one, it could be, I don't know, it could be like a funny one. It could be like a meme, like something that's just made to like make someone laugh or something like that, right? Or it could be like a trendy video, it could be something that like a trendy piece of content that its sole purpose is just to get more likes and more followers. It doesn't have any other purpose. And so you can mix all of these in, and it'll be great because now you have variety. And so that's amazing, because now your customer comes in, they look through your social media profiles, and they can see some variety, right? They're not always seeing the same things being posted over and over again, but there's different things on there that can really entertain your end customer and eventually get them to go and actually buy something from your place. The third tip I want to give you guys is to get free UGC content. So that's basically user generated content. So the most common one that's being used right now is obviously through influencers. So, you're a restaurant owner. Obviously, you can hit up foodies like myself and other food bloggers out there. You can offer them a certain amount of food for free, and they can come create content for you, and they post it, the audio as a collaborator, and there you go, right? They're creating content for you without you even having to touch your phone to create any piece of content, because they've already done it for you. Obviously, there is some expense here because you do have to give away your food. But it is something that you can do here and there. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be doing this consistently. Maybe you can do this like 2-3 times a month, where you can have you can have a food blogger come through. You can give him a good portion of food, which is what I would recommend, because I would prefer if you hit up 2 or 3 a month, but you can give those people a good amount, and they're good food bloggers that you've handpicked, of course, that you feel that are good for your place. You handpick them and you give them a good amount of food. That way they're happy because they got a good amount of food, and they're, a food blogger, from a food blogger's perspective, they're always happy when there's no resistance, like I've spoken in other episodes, when there's no resistance task force, when you can go and you can freely get as much food as you want. That obviously gets the food blogger in a place where they feel very comfortable, and because of that, they'll naturally create better content because they're in a place where they're happy, they're cool, they don't feel like they're being scammed for their content. So they'll basically want to help you on, especially if your food's good, they try it and they're like, damn, this is amazing. They'll definitely create content that's worth watching for their audience and for yourself as well. And that's always good. So you always want to make it a win-win, as opposed to you wanting to get as many food bloggers as possible through the month, where it could become like a lot. Like you could maybe have like 10, 15, 20 food bloggers come through the whole month, but now that's a lot of money. So what do you naturally tend to do? You start to cut on the amount of food, and now that makes the food bloggers a little bit uncomfortable, because now they have less food to work with. They don't feel like they pretty much correlate the amount of effort they put to the amount of food that they get. So if they get a little bit of food, that's pretty much the amount of effort they're gonna put, and so that's not good, because at the end of the day, then you're basically just giving away your food for free, because when they post, if they post something that's low effort, then it's basically not going to produce any results, and they pretty much just ate for free, and you pretty much got nothing out of that. And so it's better if you just get a few that you handpick, and you serve them well. You make sure those 3, 4 are taken care of really properly, and they produce good content that actually produces results, and that way your food was put to good use. That's one way to do it. Obviously, a free way to do it, where you don't have to give away your food for free, is to do it just through your customers. So basically ask your customers to basically post on Instagram, post stories, post on Yelp, post on Google, leave the reviews there, and add photos or videos on those platforms as well. You can always go into those profiles afterwards and download those pictures. Obviously, ask them for permission. Let them know what you're gonna do with that content. But most likely, if you credit them, there really shouldn't be a problem you using their content. But just let them know, because you could get into some trouble if you just go and download the pictures right off their review and stuff, and start posting them on your social media profiles, because copyright and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, you can definitely ask them. Obviously, you shouldn't bribe them in any way, though, because I believe that is illegal to do. But you can always ask them politely to just do it. Just go up to them and tell them, like, hey, if you actually like their food, be sure to leave us a review. Always encourage your customers to social media to post on their stories or something, and promise them that you'll repost them, because a lot of places like to be I personally, when I go somewhere and I post a story about a certain place, I like to be reposted. I like to be a part of that I want to be part of their stories. So I would like them to repost me, and that way my profile appears on their stories, and now whoever's watching their stories now can see my profile, because my picture is up there. And so sometimes I do get new followers just from that, or I can get a business. Maybe there's another business looking at that business, and so they see the picture I took for them, and they're like, oh, that's cool. How would you like to come to my restaurant, and stuff like that. And so that always works. So that's another way you can get user generated content, where it's other people creating the content for you, and you don't have to do it yourself. And you basically, either you give them food, or you just ask your customers to basically leave you a good review. And the fourth tip that I would encourage you all to use is basically take advantage of your employees, and take advantage of basically everyone who's a part of your dream, your restaurant. So obviously I'm saying more your employees, because you as an owner, you're probably not at the restaurant as much. You probably have a staff there that you leave, and you're out there doing, either you're working on other businesses, or you're working on the back end. And so you're not, most of the time, you're not actually there to witness what happens. You're not there making the food. You're not there serving customers. So what can you do? You can actually ask your employees to help you out. Ask your employees to take some content for you here and there. If I'm pretty sure if you treat your employees properly, and they're being paid a good salary, they'll be more than happy to help you. I mean, right now we're in an era where basically everybody wants to kind of take a shot at creating content, and so you can offer them that opportunity to just kind of start creating content and start taking videos, pictures, and stuff like that. And then you basically take their content and upload it, and that's pretty cool because now they're creating content for you. You can upload it, then the employee kind of sees that their content is being put to use when it appears on the social media pages of the actual restaurant, and then those employees can feel proud and happy and even go to their own families, go to their friends and be like, hey, I took that picture that's on that page, that page right there, that's the restaurant I work for, and that's my picture right there, or that's my video, I made it, and so that's always a good feeling because now they get to share that content with their network. And so basically now you've increased the chances of their network coming through to your restaurant and actually trying the food, and they can become customers too, and they can end up doing the same thing as well, where they create content for you as well. You take content. That's another thing too. If whether that's because I'm mostly referring here to Instagram, so there's that feature where obviously you can upload stories. But you can actually take those stories too. If you're out of content, you can always ask the person who uploaded that story, like, hey, can you send me the original copy of that piece of content, whether it's a video or it's a picture. You can ask them to send it to you, and then you can post that yourself on your social media page, and then obviously you tag them, give them their photo or video credit, and that's another great way to actually make good use of user generated content. And so that's amazing. So yeah, so ask your employees that are always there anyway. They're always at the restaurant. They're always making stuff. And so that's another good thing because it's a cost effective way of making content too, because obviously if you go there and you have to actually make everything just for social media content, and then at the end you just have no idea who to give it to, then obviously you could have some waste there. But with this, you have no waste because all the content is being made with items that are going to be sold and be given to a customer at some point. And this is very different than when you hire a social media manager and you make him film orders, because that's different. Because now, like, the social media manager has no reason to be filming orders because they don't actually work there, and that's just not right to be doing. Like I've said in previous episodes. These are the 4 things that I applied when I was running that account of Swedish Scoops. And now that you heard all the tips, you can see why I was able to create content constantly and in high quantities, because I came off as a professional too, just by doing all those things. I came off as a professional because it's just a very smart way to go about it, where when you just don't have any experience. Obviously, if you're a social media manager and stuff like that, you can obviously do all these things, but most of the things, obviously, if you're a content creator, most of the content is going to come from you, and you're going to be creating content. And so most social media managers do this with 10, 20 accounts at once. So this is just one account that we're talking about here, which is for you, the restaurant owner. You're basically just running your own account. So this should be something that should be pretty simple if you follow these 4 tips that I just share with you. If you need to, go back and rewind this whole episode, listen to it over and over again, and make sure you apply these things in repetition and do it over and over again. And I can assure you, you're going to be looking good until, of course, you're able to hire an actual social media agency where they can take care of all this for you, where you don't have to do it yourself anymore, and you can free up some time so you can go ahead and do other things that can help out your business. But in the meantime, if you need to do it, if you're just starting off or you just don't have the budget, you're struggling right now, you're going through some tough times, it's understandable. Every single business that's out there goes through these kind of times. And so it doesn't mean that you just have to put your social media strategy on pause, but sometimes when you just cannot afford somebody else to do it, you got to get in there and you got to do it yourself. And so this is the way to go about it. These are some really easy to follow tips, I would say, in order to get your social media up and running real fast. So yeah, I mean, any restaurant owner, if you're watching this, let me know if you have any questions, any comments, anything that I might have left out, anything that you feel that could actually help out other restaurant owners that I didn't mention here. Any tips, leave them down below. But yeah, this is pretty much what I feel that could help you. If you have no experience whatsoever, you need to start promoting there, because promotion is always good. You always want to be promoting. You never want to put that on hold, because promotion is what gets new customers in. And if you're not doing that, well, you got to do that some way, somehow. Even if you're going through tough times, you don't really want to put that on pause, because if you do that, then you're basically cutting off the inflow of new customers, and you don't want to do that. So obviously you want to find a way that works, and sometimes the best way to make it work, at least for the time being, is to do it yourself and apply these 4 things. So just to go over them once again: number 1, take inspiration from your competition. Don't listen to what everybody else says, that you should be a solo man and just focus on creating your own shit. That may be good for someone who's very egoistic and has a lot of pride in the stuff that they do, but for those who actually want to produce results, take inspiration from your competition. There's nothing wrong with that. Number 2, simplify your posting strategy. All right, don't overcomplicate it. Just post whatever you feel like posting, whether that's something that you saw out there on the internet, or that's something that you're coming up with as you're getting more creative and thinking more about this. Just post it, whether it looks good or you think it doesn't look good. Just post it. Remember, the important thing right now is to get attention, and the only way to get attention is to be consistent and make sure that you are constantly producing content. That way you're always out there some way, somehow, and eventually you start growing that following. But yeah, number 3, obviously take advantage of the free UGC content that's out there. People are willing to create content for you. You just got to find those people that are willing to do it and have them create some content for you. That's just a really simple way to get some content, some variety, of course, with the type of content that they'll bring in. So that's always good for you, for the people viewing your social media accounts. That's really cool. And lastly, of course, always ask your employees, ask the people that support you to go create content, post it, and you can always repost that kind of content as well. I want to say thank you again to everybody who's been watching. This is episode number 7, of course, we're almost at episode number 10. Here's my deal. I'm thinking that up until episode number 10, it's just going to be me. After episode 10, I will be introducing the first guest here. I'm pretty sure many of you guys who know me in person can probably already guess who's going to be the first guest here. But for those of you who don't know, it's going to be a surprise. You'll see who's going to be the first guest, but we will be having the first guest after the 10th episode. Can't wait for that to happen. It's going to be cool. And other than that, yeah, I mean, thank you very much to everybody who's watched the episode, and I hope to see you in the next one.